The landlord told me the previous tenant left in a hurry. He didn't say why, but when I peeled back the wallpaper, I found a list of dates, and today's date was at the bottom. Tonight, 3 true stories about hidden rooms, strange notes, and previous tenants who never actually left. This first story is from a guy named Ryan. He's 28, moved to Brooklyn last January. He broke his lease after 3 weeks. Here's what he told me. I found this studio on StreetEasy, $1,400 a month in Bushwick, basically a steal for New York. The landlord, Ed, showed me the place. 4th floor walk-up. When he opened the door, I immediately noticed the smell. Stale, like nobody had opened a window in months. Previous tenant left in a hurry, Ed said, personal reasons. The apartment was empty, except for old floral wallpaper covering the walls. Ed said I could paint over it if I wanted. I signed the lease that afternoon. Second day after moving in, I was putting up my TV when I noticed the wallpaper near the corner was peeling, like someone had pulled it away and tried to smooth it back down. I tugged on it. A whole section came off in my hand. Underneath was bare plaster, and written on the plaster in black Sharpie was a list of dates. The dates went like this: 1/4/24. 1/11/24, 1/18/24, every 7 days. There were maybe 20 dates total, going from January through September. The handwriting was shaky. At the bottom of the list, separate from the others, was one more date, 1/15/25. I pulled out my phone. It was January 13th, 2025. 2 days away. I called Ed immediately. There's writing under the wallpaper, a list of dates, silence. Then, oh yeah, I told them to paint over that. Previous tenant was going through something, mental health stuff, just paint over it. He hung up. I painted over the dates that night, covered them completely. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the apartment. Then the closet door opened. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. Nobody was there, just a wire hanger swinging slightly. I checked the whole apartment. Empty. Front door locked, windows closed. Next evening, January 14th, I checked where I'd painted over the dates. The paint was dry, smooth. But then I noticed something on the inside of the closet door. Carved into the wood were 3 words: "Don't be here." I called my friend Marcus. He said I should leave. I packed a bag and crashed on his couch in Queens. January 15th came and went. Nothing happened. I went back to my apartment on the 16th. Everything was fine. I lived there 1 more week. Then I broke my lease. Before moving out, I peeled back the paint where I'd covered the dates. They were still there, but there was one new date added at the bottom, 1/22/25, 7 days after the last one. I moved out the next day. Ryan said the apartment's been re-rented since then. Same photos on StreetEasy, same price. Someone else is living there now. All right, let's move on to story number 2. This next one is from a woman named Sophie. She's 25, moved to Austin, Texas last February. This happened almost a year ago. She says she still thinks about it every day. I just graduated college and got a job in Austin doing marketing for a tech startup. I found this apartment complex called The Pines, one of those newer places with a pool and a gym. Not cheap, but my salary was decent. I signed a lease for a 1-bedroom on the 2nd floor, Unit 207. The leasing agent, her name was Michelle, showed me around. Standard apartment, living room, bedroom, bathroom, small kitchen. Everything looked normal. I moved in on February 1st. Spent the first week setting everything up. Bed, couch, TV, all that. The apartment was great. Quiet neighbors, good water pressure, no complaints. About 10 days in, I was doing laundry in my bedroom closet. There's a stacked washer-dryer in there, and I noticed something weird. The closet felt small, like smaller than it should be. I measured it. The closet was about 4 feet deep, but when I went outside onto the balcony and looked at the building's layout, the bedroom wall should have extended at least another 4 or 5 feet. There was space missing. Like structurally, there should have been more room. I went back into the closet and started feeling around the back wall. That's when I noticed it. A seam, barely visible, painted over, but definitely there, running vertically from floor to ceiling. It was a door, a hidden door. I tried pushing on it. Nothing. I ran my hand along the seam looking for a handle or a latch. Found it near the bottom right corner, a small metal latch, painted white like the wall. I flipped the latch. The door swung inward. Behind it was a room. It was small, maybe 8 by 8 feet, concrete walls, no windows. There was a light switch on the wall just inside the door. I flipped it. A bare bulb turned on overhead. The room was empty, except for a folding chair in the corner, and on the wall opposite the door, written in red paint, or what I hoped was paint, were the words, "She's still here." I backed out immediately, closed the door, latched it, stood there in my closet, breathing hard. What the fuck was this room? Why was it hidden? And who wrote that message? I called the leasing office. Michelle answered. "Hey, Michelle? It's Sophie from 207. I found something weird in my apartment." "What'd you find?" "There's a room, like a hidden room, behind my closet." Silence on the other end. Then, "What are you talking about?" "There's a door in the back of my closet. It opens into a room, a hidden room." "That's not possible. I've seen the floor plan for your unit. There's no extra room." "I'm looking at it right now," I said. "Stay there. I'm coming over." Michelle showed up 20 minutes later with the property manager, a guy named Steve. I took them to the bedroom and showed them the closet, opened the hidden door. Michelle looked pale. Steve just stared. "How long has this been here?" Michelle asked. "I don't know," Steve said. "This building was constructed in 2019. This room isn't on any of the plans." "How do you mean it's not on the plans?" I said. "It's right here." Steve took out his phone and called someone. I heard him say structural engineer and code violation. Michelle was apologizing to me, saying they'd figure it out, offering to move me to a different unit. "Who wrote on the wall?" I asked. "I don't know," Steve said, "but we're going to find out." They told me not to go in the room. They'd have someone come inspect it. In the meantime, I should just keep the door closed and latched. I said okay. They left. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the room. I went back into the closet, opened the hidden door, and took a closer look around with my flashlight. That's when I noticed the scratches on the inside of the door, like someone had been clawing at it, trying to get out. I slammed the door shut and didn't open it again. The next day, the property manager called. They'd done some research. Turns out the room had been a storage space during construction. It was supposed to be sealed off before the building opened, but somehow it got missed. And they found records of the previous tenant in Unit 207. Her name was Amanda. She lived there for 6 months. She broke for lease suddenly in December and moved out. Nobody knew where she went. They offered to let me out of my lease with no penalty. I took it, moved to a different complex across town. Before I left, I asked Steve if they ever found out what happened to Amanda. He said no. She disconnected her phone, deleted her social media, just vanished. Sophie told me she looked up Amanda on every platform she could find. Nothing. It's like she never existed. The room is still there. They sealed the door with drywall, but Sophie knows it's behind there. Someone else is living in Unit 207. All right, last story. This one's the worst. This story is from someone who wants to remain anonymous. I'll call her Maya. She's 30, moved to Portland last March. This happened 9 months ago. She made me promise not to say which neighborhood. I'd been looking for an apartment in Portland for weeks. The market there is insane. Anything decent gets snatched up in hours. So when I saw a listing for a 1-bedroom for $1,200, I jumped on it. The landlord, Carol, showed me the place on a Tuesday afternoon. It was perfect. Hardwood floors, big windows, claw-foot tub. Only weird thing was it came partially furnished. There was a couch, a coffee table, and a bookshelf in the living room. Previous tenant left some stuff, Carol said. You can keep it, or I'll have someone haul it away. I said I'd keep it. Free furniture is free furniture. I signed the lease and moved in that weekend. About a week in, I decided to go through the books on the shelf. Most of them were fiction, Stephen King, Gillian Flynn, some literary stuff. But on the bottom shelf, hidden behind a row of paperbacks, was a journal. It was black leather, about the size of a composition notebook, no name on it. I opened it to the first page. It was dated March 3rd, 2024, exactly 1 year ago. The handwriting was neat. It said, Day 1, moved into the new apartment today. Carol seems nice. The place is perfect. I think I'm really going to like it here. I flipped through the entries. They were all pretty normal at first, talking about work, adjusting to the neighborhood. But then, about 3 weeks in, the tone changed. Day 21. I keep hearing noises at night, in the walls. Carol says it's just the pipes, but I don't think that's what it is. Day 28. The noises are getting louder, and I'm starting to feel like someone's watching me, even when I'm alone. Day 35. I found a hole in the closet behind the clothes. It goes into the wall. I don't know how deep it is. I stopped reading, got up and went to my bedroom closet, pushed aside my hanging clothes. There, in the back corner, was a hole, about the size of a softball. It looked like someone had punched through the drywall. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, aimed it into the hole. It went back at least 3 feet, into the wall, and at the very back I could see something white. I grabbed a wire hanger and straightened it out, poked it into the hole, felt something soft. I hooked it and pulled. It was a piece of paper, folded up. I unfolded it. It was a note, handwritten in the same writing as the journal. It said, "If you're reading this, I'm still here. Check the bathroom." My blood went cold. I walked out of the bedroom toward the bathroom. The door was closed. I always left it open. I pushed it open slowly. The bathroom looked normal. Sink, toilet, clawfoot tub with a shower curtain around it. The shower curtain was closed. I never closed a shower curtain. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, too scared to move. Then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, steady breathing, coming behind the curtain. "Hello?" I said. The breathing stopped. I grabbed the shower curtain and ripped it open. The tub was empty, but on the bottom of the tub, written in what looked like lipstick, was a message. "I'm in the walls." I ran. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and I got the fuck out of that apartment. Didn't even close the door behind me. I drove to a Target parking lot and called Carol. She didn't answer. I called the non-emergency police line, told them everything. They said they'd send an officer to check it out. I waited in the Target parking lot. An hour later, an officer called me back. He said they'd searched the apartment. No one was there. But they did find something. In the wall behind the bathroom, accessible through a maintenance panel in the hallway, there was a space, big enough for a person to fit. And inside that space, they found a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, a phone charger. Someone had been living in the walls. They dusted for prints, found several matches. They belonged to the previous tenant. Her name was Rebecca. She'd rented the apartment for 8 months. Carol said she'd moved out in February, 1 month before I moved in. But according to the evidence, she never left. The police found her 3 days later. She'd been staying in the walls of the apartment building, not just my unit, but moving between units through the maintenance shafts. She'd been doing it for a month. When they asked her why, she said she wasn't ready to leave yet. Before I moved out, I went back one more time to get my stuff. I looked at the journal again, read the last entry. It was dated February 28th, 2024, the day before she supposedly moved out. It said, "I don't want to leave. I'm going to hide. They'll never find me. I live in the quiet spaces. I'll watch the next person. I'll wait." Maya told me she has nightmares about it, about living in that apartment for a week while someone was in the walls, watching her, breathing. Rebecca got 6 months in jail and a restraining order. She's out now. Maya doesn't know where she is. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. 3 true horror stories about new apartments. Which one scared you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you're new here, welcome to Spookfeed. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. I'll see you in the next one.